Saying it's real or genuine does not disclose whether it has been treated or not. So the real question is not whether it's real jade or genuine jade, but whether it is natural jade or whether it has been treated.
Welcome to Jewels of the Trade, the channel for spreading accurate information on jade and gemstones. I'm here today with the owners of Mason K Jade, Chris and Jeff Mason. If you didn't know, Mason K is actually the leading supplier of natural jadeite jade jewelry in the US, and they also offer testing and valuing services on jadeite jade. Welcome, Chris and Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Jordan.
Nice to see you too. It's so great to have you on today. Let's define real jade, because this is what a lot of customers are asking about. They're saying, is my jade real? How do I know if my jade is real? And we need to offer some clarification on the word real. So, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind starting out, can you kind of explain the difference between natural jade, treated jade, and jade simulants?
Natural jade is jadeite that has not been dyed or impregnated in any way or treated in any way. Those are the two treatments, though. Treated jade has been treated in one of those or both of those ways. It's been either impregnated, dyed, or both. Those are called B jade, C jade, or B plus C jade if it's got both. Simulants are not jade at all. They're different things that can simulate jade. They look like jade. They make people think they're jade, but they're not.
When you're speaking with a customer and the customer asks, is my jade real? What is important for the industry, for the jade sellers and jade professionals to know when answering that? How should we define real jade?
That is a very important, wonderful question. And I say that because a lot of sellers who are trying to pull one over on a buyer will use just that term, real jade. It's real jade or it's genuine jade. And all that means is that it's jade as opposed to a different stone, maybe a simulant. It's not quartz, it's not glass, it's not nephrite jade, it's not serpentine, what have you. It is jadeite jade. However, saying it's real or genuine does not disclose whether it has been treated or not. So the real question is not whether it's real jade or genuine jade, but whether it is natural jade or whether it has been treated. And any purchaser of any jade anywhere should get a guarantee that their jade, if it's jadeite, is natural and that it is returnable if it is found to be not natural in any way.
Some customers may have heard the term A jade, and we use that term A jade to mean natural and untreated. I think it needs to be mentioned, though, that there are still unscrupulous sellers who are selling jade simulants and B or B plus C jade as A jade. So that's why, like Jeff mentioned, having that guarantee is so important. So let's really dive into the treatment codes, A, B, C, and B plus C. Just for everyone watching, what we're about to discuss only refers to jadeite jade. So for instance, if someone says BC jade, that can actually refer to nephrite jade from British Columbia, which is natural. So B plus C jade is the term that we use for impregnated, dyed jadeite jade.
All of this information is on our website, on our informational website, just masonk.com. If somebody doesn't remember or they want to research more, it is all available on our website.
Click the link in the description, everybody, and don't forget to follow Mason K Jade on Instagram as well. Starting with A jade, let's work our way through the treatment code. So what exactly should A jade mean?
A jade means natural jadeite. No dye, no polymer, jadeite jade. However, I'll point out too, as you did for BC versus B plus C, there's a little confusion there. There can be confusion with the word A jade because a lot of folks relate that to the quality as it relates to AA, AAA. You know,
right.
We look at that with regard to our meats and other things in life. That's not the case at all with jade. A refers to natural jadeite jade with no treatment at all, versus B and C. So it's A, B, or C jade. A jade is the natural stuff I just mentioned. B is the bleached. That's where it gets the word B from. It's acid bleached for days or weeks to attack the jade stone and remove any impurities. It makes the stone far more porous, creates more fractures and fissures, which allows the second step of the process to work better, which is the polymer to seep in the stone, not always a polymer, sometimes a different kind of resin, but some kind of polymer-ish resin seeps into the stone, A centrifuge is used sometimes in the process to help push the resin into the stone, and it fills the fissures and fractures and makes it look nice and translucent and beautiful. There's also C jade, which is dyed jadeite jade. C jade, before B jade came about in about 1980, was quite rare. However, since B jade, it is far more common, and it is done within the polymer treatment process. Between the acid bleaching and the impregnation, the stone is very porous, and dye can be applied very easily. So you see a lot of stones that are B plus C, not BC jade as in British Columbia nephrite, but B plus C, which means impregnated and dyed jadeite jade. You don't want that stuff.
They would actually take a bangle and soak it in the acid, and before applying the polymer or putting in the centrifuge, they'll be painting on, making it look sometimes like there's little splotches of green on this beautiful bangle, and then they soak it. And so sometimes they maybe soak the whole thing in dye, and sometimes they just very gently put on some color. So you have to be very careful.
Does it really look like natural jade when it's all said and done?
Sometimes.
Some can look very much like natural. Others can be pretty obvious.
Well, and typically it's going to look like high quality jadeite, right? So that can be a huge red flag.
Yeah.
High quality natural jade is very, very rare.
Yes.
And then we don't usually use this term, but I have heard some sellers say D jade. What exactly does D jade mean?
Well, some used, in fact, we did early on, used D to denote dyed jade because it kind of fit well with A, B, C, and D. Really, the proper terminology is just A, B, and C is dyed.
A lot of customers are trying to determine if their jade is natural or treated by using at-home tests. Jeff, what is your advice to the customer who's looking for a quick, easy, and cheap way to evaluate their jadeite?
There's really no way to be sure without the proper gemological equipment and testing. But there are indications. The first one, of course, is the price paid. A lot of folks might not know value of jade, so they don't understand. But if you bought a beautiful, translucent green jade bangle for $500, you didn't get a natural piece, because a beautiful translucent green jade bangle should be $50,000 or more. So the price paid for an item is the first indication. Second, or another, would be shape, size. If you're buying something that is calibrated, that's probably something that's not natural, because better material is always cut to the best use of the rough, and you never know what size you're going to end up with. And when you see calibrated sizes, especially with flat bottoms, those tend to be cut from material that is less valuable and where waste isn't an issue. Therefore, that's an indication that they might be treated. Crude carvings are another indication. Floating colors, tricolor jade is very rare. Sometimes you see 3 colors in one piece.
Three vivid colors.
Vivid colors, yeah, that's very rare. If you see that,
careful.
You should maybe consider having your piece tested.
We see enough pieces where, we get stumped all the time where I'm sure, that's treated, but Jeff's going to test it anyway. We get stumped all the time. Sometimes we've noticed when things are treated, they tend to be a little lighter because some of the jade has been bleached away and it's been filled with much lighter resin.
And what you guys are using is advanced gemological testing. So it's actually not even the same types of tests that even a typical jewelry store can offer. So this really is an exceptional service. And I hope that people watching this video realize that if you do really want to know if your jade is real, and I highly recommend, send it in to Mason K. Let them test it for you. Find out if it is in fact natural jadeite jade or if it's treated or a simulant. And if it does turn out to be natural, it can also be valued. So if you wanted to have an appraisal done on it, Mason K can actually help you understand how much it's worth. So let's move on to simulants. What is the most common jade simulant?
By far, it is dyed green quartz. Quartzite in general is the largest simulant, but specifically the dyed green version of it is by far the most common simulant. You see that in bangles, very often in bangles, beads, cabochons, carvings, everything really. It's easy to tell if you have a refractometer, but not everybody has a refractometer and the knowledge to use one. So otherwise, it looks very jade-like.
Why is it so hard to distinguish jadeite jade from quartz? Because
it looks the same. Looks very similar. Dyed green quartz looks like very nice jade. And unless you know what you're doing and know how to test, you won't be able to tell that it's quartz and won't be able to tell that it's dyed.
Some people try to use the scratch test when trying to determine if their jade is actual jadeite. But unfortunately, jadeite jade and quartz are pretty close in hardness.
Quartz is actually just a bit harder. So the same instrument you use to try to scratch jade will not scratch quartz either. So if you're thinking that, well, I wasn't able to scratch my piece, therefore it's jade, doesn't mean it's jade. Another one is cold. A lot of people say, well, my piece feels cold. Well, jade is known to be cold, but other stones are cold too. Maybe not as cold, but they can be cold as well.
And jade also can be warmed up if worn against the skin, or even if left under like a light, like in a jewelry case. And then the ping test is another test that people use to try and determine if their bangle particularly is jadeite.
To test your jade bangle, find a hard object, suspend the bangle in question from a string, and tap it gently. Unfractured natural Jadeite jade bangles will ping, but B jade will not.
However, a quartz bangle will also ping. Is that correct?
That's correct. If it's nice and translucent, it will ping nicely. In fact, sometimes even better than a jade bangle. So you have to first identify that it's jade. And then there's the other side of the coin too, which is that there are jade pieces that are natural jadeite jade that don't ping very well because they're very opaque.
That's not the sound we're looking for.
They have a lot of inclusions in them, and the sonority is compromised, and the sound won't resonate throughout the bangle. So really we're talking about translucent bangles. And a treated bangle is often translucent because it's been impregnated, it makes it look more translucent. So when you see a translucent bangle and you've identified it as jadeite and it has no ping,
It's treated.
it's treated.
What are some other common simulants of jadeite jade, and are they convincing, or is it pretty easy to tell?
Well, there are some other common simulants. Again, in the quartz family, there's chrysoprase, which is kind of that lighter minty green, very suspicious looking color. Aventurine quartz is something that is a common simulant, but those have those platelets that usually are eye visible, if not with a loupe, certainly. There's other things. Serpentine can look like jade. It is translucent. It usually is a lighter green, sometimes has black spots. The bowenite version of serpentine will have some black spots, but natural jadeite can have black spots too. Agate, again, a quartz product, but that has banding in it, and that banding is a visual indication that it's not jadeite. Soapstone, very soft. Glass could be any refractive index. The indicator there is gas bubbles. Almost all glass will have some gas bubbles somewhere. So the most uncommon but best simulant is translucent grossularite garnet. Very similar looking to jadeite. Very. It can fool you. And obviously it's got a different RI, so if you have a refractometer and know how to use it, of course, you can differentiate the two.
I don't know how often people are unscrupulous or they just don't know. As you see, there are so many simulants. I think a lot of times people don't know and things really look like jade and they can't imagine that it's anything else. They just assume it's jade, and the word jade is used a lot for all kinds of things, and that's very common too. So sometimes they are being unscrupulous and sometimes they are not. But either way, everyone should just learn to protect themselves and make sure that they get guarantees, and if their jade isn't natural or treated, that they have some type of recourse.
Absolutely. And of course, you can always shop with Mason K either through a Mason K retail partner, of which there is a list on the website, masonkay.com, or if you don't have a local retailer in your area selling Mason K jade, you can shop with Mason K directly at mkjjewelry.com.